Hey guys, welcome to our first series called The Root Uprooted. I'm Anitra Alexander.
And I'm Vanessa Eli.
In this episode, we will dive into the three fundamental components of Uprooted: unpack, unlearn, and uproot. This episode will be an overview, and the episodes that follow will include an in-depth conversation about each component and Vanessa and I's own personal experience with each. So to start, we'll do some short intros of who we are and our backgrounds.
Yeah. So my name is Vanessa Eli. I'm currently living in the suburbs of Chicago. Our household is my husband and I. We actually are from Texas, and we moved here now going about 4 years ago. So in 2017, we moved here. But yeah, my household is myself, my husband, and our dog Socks. He's like a mixed terrier, German Shepherd, Lab, Husky. So he's a super mutt, but we love him a lot. Currently, my work assignment is I actually work for a local church here in the suburbs. And within the church, I work in our family life. And so from birth all the way through high school, I help serve families, specifically within birth through fifth grade. But in different ways, I help support our director through different initiatives, but ultimately serving families in our local community. My interests lie really heavily in the intersection between religion and politics, and also our response as Christians to the world that we live in. As well, I have a huge interest in just discipleship methods, and what that practically means for the local church. So, very, very honored that I get to do the work that I do, and I get to tangibly live out in my vocation what I am very passionate about as well.
Sweet. So yeah, again, my name is Anitra Alexander. I'm originally from Texas. Vanessa and I actually met in Texas, College Station, Texas. I'm currently located in Greenville, South Carolina. And in 2019, I was called to uproot my life and move to Clemson, South Carolina, in order to pursue a master's degree, which I'm currently doing now. Also, during this season of my life, I have an assignment as an office assistant at a counseling center here in Greenville, South Carolina. And that job has been very eye-opening and very rewarding, but has definitely helped me to see the need for us to take better care of our mental health, especially within our young people, our youth. And so that is actually where my interests lie. I'm currently pursuing a master's degree with a concentration in youth development. And my current research is focused on how young people process and make meaning of the racial injustices that happen in our country, and how that impacts their mental health and well-being. So let's get a little bit into the podcast and why we created it. I know we talked a little bit about what kind of sparked, or in this instance, re-sparked our desire to create this podcast, but why a podcast?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, actually, now not even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, in 2018, God really kind of planted a seed and gave us this vision of a podcast. And at that time, it was not the right timing. I think that we look back and we look at that season and we laugh because we were super excited. We thought this idea and this concept of what we were doing was exactly, it was, what we're supposed to be doing. It was so unique and it was so different. And we had a photo shoot and we did the full 9 yards on how to get this up and ready. And it really just came logistically that it was not the right timing for us to launch something or to even handle or steward the responsibility of that platform. And so God reignited that spark and kind of realigned last year. in 2020. And I briefly mentioned in our invitation episode that we did a lot of planning and a lot of hoping and praying for what this would be. There was a lot of tangible things that came to surface, such as what the podcast would be called, what it would be focused on, the intention and the mission behind it. But again, it was not the right timing, as 2020 was really hard for so many of us. And really, towards the end of the year, God made it clear that starting 2021, this is what He wanted us to introduce and to put into fruition. And so He planted the seed in 2018, but it has come into fruition now, January 2021, which is a podcast that would marry both faith and trauma, spirituality and mental health, ultimately creating a space for open dialogue, tough questions, not necessarily telling people what to think, but to propose things to think about and to be in relationship with others while we are in this process of rediscovering all of those things and thinking through those things in our own life.
So, so good. And I know a lot of you are probably listening and you're like, okay, I hear all this conversation about God,
Mm,
about the gospel. And, we are well aware that every person is on their own journey. And we know that some people may not have yet discovered um, their relationship with God or the genuine love that God has for them. Some people, are not in relationship with God currently, and we want you to know that that is okay. We
mhm,
are not wanting people to who are perfect or trying to pursue perfection, and we want you to know that this podcast is not about religion. It is more so about relationship. And so we want to create the opportunity and create the space to represent God and the gospel to people. Because for so long, we feel like God and how He feels about us has been misrepresented by culture, by people of the church, and so forth. And so don't feel like you have to have it all together. Don't feel like you have to be perfect. We welcome all walks of life. We welcome all
mhm.
perspectives because that's how we grow. And that's how we move forward together as a people.
Yeah.
And so, what exactly is this process of uprooted? You've heard us talk about it in the invitation. You're hearing us talk about this whole unpack, unlearn, uproot process. So, exactly what is that? Um, so the process of uprooting, when we originally, sought out God's vision for this project, we kept going back to the process of therapy.
Mhm,
So this process, this three-step process, is actually inspired by therapy. So usually, when you first seek out therapy and you're in session with a therapist, the first thing that you do is you kind of unpack. Why are you there? What brought you to therapy? What are the things that are bothering you? What are the things that are really hindering you and keeping you from living a wholesome, a whole, full life? And so you sit down, you talk that all out, everything comes to the surface and you talk that out with your therapist. And then the next step is unlearning. So you might find that your therapist will give you some homework. They'll give you some tools for you to be able to recognize the things in your life that are not suiting you in that particular season that need to be unlearned, that needs to be removed in order for you to move forward in a healthy way. And the last thing that you have to do is uproot. So once you learn these new habits, once you learn these new mindsets, once you start learning these new concepts and ideas, you have to uproot them in order to make room for the new things that you're discovering about yourself, about life, about your worldviews, etc. And so that's where this whole process is inspired from. And so,
mhm,
again, going just through the general definitions, unpacking is to analyze something, to break it down into its elements or into its components. Unlearning is to discard something, especially bad habits or false narratives or outdated information that isn't currently serving you where you are in that particular season. And uprooting is to pull something out of the ground. So when you think about a tree, when you think about a plant, when you think about weeds in a garden, it's pulling it up, it's rooting it out, it's taking it out. In order for you to better cultivate that soil and to plant something new. And so when we were going through this process, I don't know who else out there is a visual learner. I'm personally a visual learner. I love analogies to kind of paint the full picture. And so we want to share this analogy with you guys that we thought was the perfect example to better describe or help you visualize this process.
Yeah. So whenever we were talking through all of those pieces, um, this imagery that kind of came up is, whenever you're getting ready to go somewhere, getting ready to go on vacation, and you're really excited and you're expectant for what you're going to do. Let's say you're going to go to Hawaii or you're going to go to the mountains or who knows. You oftentimes get your suitcase out and you get ready to pack what you're going to take there. And so this process of unpacking and learning uprooting, in analogy to our own lives, is that moment of when you get your suitcase out and you realize that there is stuff that has yet to be unpacked or put away or disregarded or thrown away or maybe is expired but was sitting in your suitcase for a long time and makes you pause or either makes you have to readjust these new plans of needing to pack to go to vacation because they've been there for so long. And so the process of unpacking is really taking everything out, figuring out, wow, what is all this stuff that I've actually been carrying or holding or even storing in my closet for years that I haven't even gone to. I mean, who has like curling irons or straighteners or whatever, and you thought you lost it, but it was actually just in your closet, and then you go out and buy another one, just not knowing that you actually had those things the whole time. So it's like this realization and analyzation of breaking things into its component elements. So then, similar to unlearn, whenever you have all that stuff out and you throw the mess on your bed or on the ground or whatever, you're looking at what you have and you're beginning to organize and sort what needs to be thrown out, what can be recycled, what do I just need to wash, what doesn't fit me anymore, maybe I lost weight, gained weight, like whatever it is. And it's that process of unlearning is whenever you're kind of needing to figure out logistically what needs to go and what needs to stay, or what needs to be relearned. And so
Right.
then getting to uproot, to pull up, take out, literally to get rid of, is when you then figure out with your suitcase, what am I keeping? What am I getting rid of tangibly? And doing that, going to the garbage can, throwing it away, buying a new set of whatever, reorganizing, anything that you need to do to ultimately allow space and room in your suitcase for you to be able to go on your next vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think something that we oftentimes do with the stuff that's in our life is we adjust our life. Well, we put our new clothes in because we don't want to, maybe we're rushing and we can't take the time to like go through the process of cleaning out our suitcase because we just need to go to vacation. We're so excited to do it. And then the new clothes that we put in our suitcase now get dirty with the stuff that was in there from 2 vacations ago. Or maybe you're using stuff that's expired or whatever. But either way, the stuff from the past that you did not deal with will then come back to affect the new stuff that you're
Mm-hmm.
putting in one way or the other. And so ultimately, that depicts for us a representation and a representing of the gospel in our own lives. That whenever we sit with the stuff in our lives from recent weeks, months, years ago, whenever we take time to sit with that and to unpack and unlearn and uproot, that allows the transformation of the gospel to actually come into fruition. Because the gospel simply is that there was darkness in the world that caused us to sin and be far from God. God sent his Savior through Christ. And then the response in that, when we accept Jesus's teachings and his interpretation of how to act and be and to love and to serve one another, we then have a response. And that's where the uproot comes in. We have a transformation and a change that happens in our lives, not just to stay here in us, but to truly transform and to invite other people to be a part of that life transformation as well. And so that's what we see a lot of similarities between this process of going through the inner work and doing the hard work so you can truly be living in a transformed state of mind, freedom, that otherwise our lives are just too busy or had too much stuff that we hadn't dealt with before.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I actually want to go back to a point that you made when you were discussing the suitcase analogy about our reluctance to want to have to deal with that old laundry, the things that are in the suitcase, and instead going to buy, new clothes, new products, etc. I think it's important to realize that in our lives, those things that we choose to suppress, even if we go out and we adopt new ideas, new mindsets, we buy into the new age movement that's happening right now. It doesn't negate the fact that those other things that we have suppressed are still there, and
Mm,
that those things are still impacting the way that we show up into the world. And I think it's important for us to clearly and explicitly state that this process is not going to be easy.
yeah.
The easy thing to do is to suppress and to try to adopt new things, new mindsets without dealing with the old. But we want to encourage you in that we are here to walk alongside you and we have resources for you within these uprooted episodes. And
Mm-hmm.
so, how exactly are these episodes going to work? What is this all going to look like? So, each episode that we are going to have a topic, a weekly conversation, or some kind of series in which we are going to be walking with you through the 3-step process. So we are going to unpack whatever that topic is, unlearn whatever that topic is, and give you the tools and resources to be able to uproot whatever that topic is for that given week or that given series. And so we want to give you guys tangible, practical tools, ways, steps, etc. We're going to have journal prompts. We're going to have academic resources. We're going to have some biblical resources for you guys. And we might even have a guest or two that might appear on the show. You never know. So you have to keep watching. But we do want to reiterate, that this is a process. It's exactly what it is. It's a process. It's going to take time. It's going to take more than, a 30-minute episode or two or four in order to get where you want to be in terms of healing. But
Mm-hmm.
that's also the beautiful thing about healing is that, you can walk through the process with other people, and that is what we are here for.
Mm-hmm.
So, Vanessa, what are some other things that our listeners can anticipate with Uprooted in the near future?
That's a great segue though, because it really is our heart to provide. Well, let me go back. It really is our heart that if we were going to create a platform like this where we are talking about hard stuff, where we have people on and we're interviewing people and we're getting to the root of what it is on the different topics that we talk about through Uprooted, it is necessary that we cultivate relationships through that. So it is our heart to be able to create opportunities for those relationships to occur. So we are going to be doing what is called Sunday brunch, small group community. Not necessarily in the very beginning, probably around season 2 of Uprooted, but giving us an opportunity to be in relationship with people who are on the same journey of healing. Maybe they're in a different spot. Maybe they're at a different starting line, or maybe they might be a little bit more mature than where you have been. We welcome anybody and everybody to be a part of that. So, in the weeks and months to come, we will be seeking out tangible ways to create that platform for us and for anyone who listens and who wants to be a part of that, to be in conversation with us. And that's not just for the 20-something young adult or young professional. It is really for anybody who wants to be a part of that conversation. We welcome all walks, and we understand that there is wisdom that is given in many different seasons. And so please know that we extend that invitation to all. And so that's something that we'll be putting in the works in the upcoming weeks and months, not necessarily right now, but something that we can definitely look forward to.
Absolutely. And speaking of conversation, guys, we want to hear from you. We are going through this process and this journey alongside you. So find us on our social media platforms. We are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, and leave some conversations, leave some comments for us. Let us know what you're excited about. Let us know maybe what kind of topics that you want to hear or that you're expecting from the podcast or that you want to look forward to, and engage with us. We want to be in community with you. And if you're just tuning in, be sure to go check out our first episode, The Invitation, so you can get a little bit more knowledge about, again, what kind of sparked this whole conversation and what this podcast is intended to help us achieve. So thank you guys. We look forward to the upcoming seasons, and stay tuned for the next couple of episodes.